Oh boy. Looky what we got here. It's a flying high in the sky, pie in the sky ideology. It has been it's been a hot minute, hasn't it? Since we did one of these. Brutal summer. We had a brutal fucking summer. And I like sitting outside and doing these. And so that's just not happening this summer. Just not going to do it. It's not quite evening where I'm at, but if it's evening where you're at, good evening. The party has started. Yeah, dude, 100 degrees, 98 degrees all week, every week. Cools down to like 86 at night. Ridiculous. The sleeper has awakened. The sleeper has awakened. Yeah, really the only other place I can do these comfortably is like sitting at my desk, and I've come to absolutely hate that desk. I mean, this is just like personal shit. You guys don't care about that, but I need to like redesign my whole office. Like I need to get rid of my desk. Like as comfortable as it is, I think I need to get rid of that chair and get myself like a more standard like office type chair. And maybe even like rig my desk in such a way that I can have like a stand-up desk or something. Because the setup I have now is just not comfortable, and I end up sitting in that place a lot, doing research for shows, doing the actual filming, doing meetings. Would you recommend moving to California despite the climate? Sure. I mean, moving anywhere is a trade-off. There are parts of California that are just absolutely beautiful despite the climate. Like, if I could live anywhere in Cali, anywhere, it would be like the Central Coast. It's just like, if you've never been, it's the most beautiful beaches, the greatest, like, it's just beautiful temperature wise. So it just depends. I here have some Walmart bucks. Really love the Halloween episode. Also fucks number stations. That shit has been my dreams. Oh yeah. Well, thank you. Appreciate it. Oh yeah. Like that place, the area I just mentioned, like Pismo, fucking Capitola, like that whole stretch of beach in the central part of California is all just like prohibitively expensive. 15, 17, 12, 8, A, 16, 21. Capitola is such a tourist trap. I mean, a lot of the main cities along that central coast are as well. Like Pismo, Pismo is like my favorite place in the world. Pismo Beach, California, and it is uh, an absolute tourist trap now. It used to be a tourist trap, I guess, when I was a kid, but it was way more navigable because there were less people. But the population explosion has not done any favors for that area. Let's put it that way. But yeah, like pretty much any city that's along that stretch of coastline from Capitola to Oceano, a tourist trap. It's an upcoming video game and film you're looking forward to, Sir Paul. Film, really don't have one. Video game, don't really have one either, I guess. Like I've been playing Persona 5 Golden. It came out on PC a few days ago, and I've been playing the shit out of that. I love that game. Like, I don't know what it is, dude. I'm sucked into that game. Hello, Bosnia and Herzegovina. Yeah, I've played Disco Elysium. Y'all ever heard the way Trump says film? He says, like, film. He does? I like that film. I've never heard him say it. I'll have to try and find him saying it. I like that film. That's how we say it in Ireland. Oh, yeah. Going down to the cine to see a film. Did you ever consider quitting caffeine? I pretty much have at this point. Like, I will have a cup of coffee every once in a blue moon. And a glass of, like, diet soda every once in a blue moon. I really don't drink caffeine anymore. And that's pretty crazy given how much caffeine I used to drink. So I pretty much have quit caffeine. If I stop drinking coffee, I will revert to dormancy. Yeah, I mean, trust me, I've been there. I have been there. Have you ever heard the song Tim Heidecker about Trump's dumps? No, I have not. I don't regularly drink caffeine, and I don't want to get dependent on it. It's probably a good thing, because it's like a progressive thing, too. The more into drinking coffee and caffeinated shit that you get, the more you need. It's like any other drug, really. Why quit? I mean, a number of reasons. But most of them, like, basic health related. You know, I have, like, high blood pressure. And so pouring a bunch of stimulants down your throat's not not the greatest idea, you know? You got high blood pressure. I haven't seen much of Trump lately. Wonder how the big guy is doing. Excuse me. I don't. Well, the news could move on, but they won't because Trump pays the bills. Trump is one of those figures that's divisive. And so you're going to have a built-in audience for any story you do about Trump. If you talk about Trump, you're going to get a bunch of people that hate him, a bunch of people that love him, even the ambivalent people, you know, the people that are up in the air about him. They're all going to watch it. So you're going to see Trump forever till he's dead. And then after that, you're going to see him forever. And I don't know. I've all but just tuned out of the news. Like today, we're doing an onion nuggets for our patrons, and like it'll be the first time that I've looked in earnest at the news since last week, Wednesday. So. God, Emperor Trump. Yeah, I know. That's so cringe. What about Trump made him so absolutely divisive? Like, I don't feel he said anything I hadn't heard from any Republican Southern dude with an opinion. I don't know. It's a good question. I don't know. Watching the news is bad for your mental health. It's not even really the watching of the news, although it definitely plays a role. It's not necessarily a good thing for my mental health, but it's more the like kind of like arguing that comes naturally as part of my job about people's interpretations of the news or whatever the fuck versus my interpretation of the news. What's the news in Paul Land? Surely more interesting than the actual news. Spoiler, it's the same shit every day for the last 30 years. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. There really is no news in Paul Land. No news is good news. You missed the Poltergeist channel. I mean, that was just the channel that we used when I periodically get banned from this one. So you don't really have to miss it, because this is what would be going on it, if I was over there still. Pretty clouds today. Got those big fluffy clouds. Any thoughts or comments on the Kanye drama as of late? None that I haven't expressed publicly. I mean, it's just, I happen to be a fan of Kanye, not just his music, but like his persona. Like, I just like the kind of agent provocateur kind of thing that he's got going on. I don't agree with most of the shit that he says, but I sure do like how he stirs it up. What's your thoughts on the new Hellraiser flick? I'm actually working on a review of it for Cinema for Cynics, but in general, it's probably like the third best Hellraiser movie, which is pretty high praise given that there's 10 of them, 11 now. So 3 out of 11 is not bad. That's a pretty good movie. But yeah, I appreciated it. Like, I genuinely enjoyed myself watching it. I think it didn't overstay its welcome. I liked some of the new Cenobite designs that they did. I liked their kind of commitment to going a different direction with it, keeping some of the mythology but expanding on it, changing things up a little bit. It was good. Like I said, it's in my opinion, it's Hellraiser 1, Hellraiser 2, and then the new Hellraiser reboot. So that's pretty goddamn good. Yeah, I mean, that's about as high praise as I expected. I really did not expect much going into it. No, it's not. I mean, if you like the Hellraiser movies, like me, which I don't know how many people do. There must be a bunch of people that do. Anytime they come out with one, it's worth watching. But this one actually wasn't total garbage. It was pretty good. I enjoyed it. Which Hellraiser would you say is the worst? Easily, I can't even remember the name of it. Hellraiser Redemption or Hellraiser. It's the one where they do like a found footage type of movie at the beginning of it, where two like 18-year-old boys go to Mexico for their graduation celebration or whatever, and then like some crazy homeless person hands them the puzzle box. Yeah, easily. That's the worst one. It's got the worst recast of Pinhead. Like the guy that they got to play Pinhead was just awful. Didn't look anything like the part. Didn't act anything like the part. It just feels like, trying to think of how that movie feels. It feels like a low budget porn without the porn. It feels like that's exactly what it feels like. It feels like a porn movie with none of the porn. Who goes to Mexico because they graduated high school? These two guys apparently. What did you think of the Batman? I haven't seen it. I won't like I pretty much refuse to watch any superhero movies. I'm done to death. I'm over superheroes. I don't care anymore. Like they've literally rehashed the superhero genre to the point of like I really don't care to watch any of it. The last superhero movie I think the last superhero movie I watched was Endgame, which I thought was pretty good. It wrapped up the whole Avengers arc for me, and that's it. Like I was like, okay, I'm done. I really honestly don't think I've seen a superhero movie since then. I may be wrong, but superhero movies completely ruined Hollywood. I mean, I don't think it was the superhero movies. You know what's completely ruined Hollywood? The transfer of filmmaking from an art form to a cash cow. There used to be a happy medium where these companies were willing to take risks, putting out new, thoughtful, interesting films. They were willing to risk a movie not doing well. There's always been like stupid cash in blockbuster type of movies. That's always been the case. But there used to be like a real sense of artistry in filmmaking where, these companies would seek out really smart, creative people and fund their projects and put their stuff out. And that seems to have gone away at this point. I mean, really, how many times have we seen? All right, guys, we're gonna stop evil bad dude from getting the magic stone. Yeah, I know. Yeah, it's. Thank you, by the way. It's fucking ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. And I feel like every once in a blue moon, like a really good movie sneaks by, but the general output of Hollywood has been risk averse for about 20 years. We know what makes money. We're just going to make that. That's why it's literally a whole generation of people grew up on these Marvel films and DC films because they knew that if they slapped a Marvel thing on it and put Thor in it, that like they were going to at least make $300 million on it. And it's created like just kind of a sad, backwards, lame environment where you just get like the same shit told over and over and over again. It's become harder and harder to find interesting movies. To be honest with you, like in order to find really interesting films anymore, you have to go to these like super low budget kind of B movie kind of art house type of things. That didn't necessarily used to be the case. Pretty blue jay. I haven't seen a blue jay in a while. Beautiful. Beautiful blue. Blue is such a rare color in the animal kingdom. It's so weird to see a blue jay. He's looking good, man. Currently watching House of the Dragon. Pretty dope. Yeah, I haven't. That's another one that I just don't really care to see. Got nothing bad to say about it because I haven't seen any of it, but I'm just not at a place where I want more Game of Thrones. Pretty bird. The birds are so much fun to just look at. Let's see if this is one of those like, I think they're called AC-130 jets, the big like military planes. Let's see what this dude is doing. Yeah, I can't get eyes on it. Sounds like an F-16. It could be. We get flyovers from jets, flyovers from this big like Chinook military helicopters, and like just the big transport type of planes and stuff. I think the Avatar sequel is going to be as uninspired and bland as the OG. I actually kind of liked the original Avatar. I mean, I agree it's a little like the story, I guess, of it is a little lame. It's like just the noble savage story. Like you could easily retool the Avatar movie to be a movie about a dude that, moves west in the early 1800s, and encounters an Indian tribe. It's basically like uh, Dances with Wolves. But visually, it was a lot of fun to watch. Cheers. Thanks, Eric. Um, yeah, I don't know. I hesitate to prejudge it because it's a Jim Cameron movie. James Cameron is one of those directors that, like, I defy you to name a movie of his that's just outright sucks. It isn't worth your time watching. Like, James Cameron is absolutely meticulous when it comes to making movies. Like, we just watched a James Cameron movie. I hadn't seen it in fucking years and years and years. And Amelia had never seen it. We watched True Lies the other night. And I actually forgot that it was a James Cameron movie until it started. I was like, oh yeah, that's right. And the mark of quality is just completely on that movie. Like, it's just so over the top. It's so much fun. Um, it's got some stuff in it that, as much as I like to think that my mindset is stuck in like the 90s, it goes to show you that like my critical eye has been affected by modern moral crusades and like the modern moral climate. So I was watching True Lies, and I was like, man, this is kind of fucked up. Like, he uses his like spy agency to like harass and gaslight his wife in a way that's like it's kind of uncomfortable almost. Like, and I never really thought of it that way back when I was watching it when it was a newer film. But yeah, there's some weird lines in it too. Like, remember the Bill Paxton character? If you've never seen the movie, Bill Paxton plays this like sleazy used car salesman guy that pretends to be like a secret agent in order to pick up chicks. And there's this scene where he's like talking to Schwarzenegger, and what he doesn't know is he's talking to Schwarzenegger about his wife. Schwarzenegger's like spying on him, trying to figure out what's going on with his wife. And he's like, oh man, this new one I got going now, she's got a pair of titties that make you want to sit up and beg for buttermilk. She's got an ass like a 10-year-old boy. And I was like, what? Ass like a 10-year-old boy? Huh? What? I never like watching that movie. Like, I just you just think it's like a gross dude or whatever. Like, I don't remember ever thinking anything about that. It's like, what? Yeah, Bill Paxton was The Game Over Man guy and Aliens. Game Over Man. It's probably one of his more famous things. He was in a movie called, oh, what is that movie? Is it a movie where he played like a serial killer who was like the father of a serial killer? It's got oh fucking what's his name? I'm terrible with names, man. I've always been that way. Fuck, what is that? What is that movie called? I don't know. If you ever get around to starting your 40K army, no. Frailty, yes, Frailty. That's the movie. I like that movie a lot. Frailty's pretty good. He was in Twister, yeah. He's the main guy in Twister. Yeah, he died of like a he just had like a weird medical problem. He had some kind of like surgery and died in surgery. Yeah, Matthew McConaughey. Yeah. Yeah, you'll recognize him. You've probably seen a bunch of movies with him. He was a staple in a lot of movies. He's a really well known character actor. Hey Paul, it's the 55th anniversary of the album Forever Changes by Love. Cheers. Okay. Yeah, I've seen Near Dark. You dress up as a garden gnome? No. No. How's that? No. Can you gush about how much you love Jaws 1? No, because I don't. I like Jaws 1. I don't really love it. Looking back on it, I feel like the special effects did not age well in Jaws. Like the big mechanical shark. And I think a lot of that is due to the fact that, like, as a kid, I went to Universal Studios a bunch of times, and I don't know if there still is, but there used to be this thing, like the tram ride. Brilliant ride. It's a ride that's like disguised as like one of those boring, like, let's tour the different, like movie sets that are here at Universal Studios, and it's like made into an actual ride where, like here's where they shot a bunch of the scenes in Jaws, and then a big mechanical Jaws comes out and menaces you. And once I saw that, I think it really like made it hard for me to look at the shark in Jaws, to like look at Jaws and see anything other than a big mechanical thing. It looks pretty good, but it's not great. I've never been a huge fan of Jaws. Your stream was recommended to me. Okay, cool. Well, welcome. Hello. I'm not sure why, but howdy. Best hip hop albums of the 90s. I mean, you have to put like Eminem's debut album on there. You got to put the Slim Shady LP on there. I don't know, man. It wasn't until I was like older, probably in my 30s, when I started really thinking about things in terms of albums. Like I was a product of my generation, and so it was all about singles, like. So I'd have to think about it. I'd have to sit down and actually think about it, and I'm not really in the mood to think about it. It's easier for me. I mean, there's a lot of people that really kind of like study albums and stuff. That's just not me. The Miseducation of Missy Elliott. Yeah, that's a good one. Did you watch any good horror movies for Halloween? What did we watch? It's so sad. My short-term memory is not great. But we did watch a scary movie. What did we watch? Fuck. It was like day before yesterday. And I cannot remember the fucking movie. That's not a good sign for it, I guess. I guess it wasn't a very memorable movie. This is gonna bug me now. What the fuck did we watch? If Amelia was here, she'd remember. She would remember. She's got a good short-term memory. Mine is fucking fried, bro. I have a memory about that long. Yeah, 2 days ago may as well be prehistory. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it definitely wasn't a great movie, I'll tell you that much. What did we fucking watch? We sat down and watched a whole ass movie. It was after I did the show on Halloween. We ate dinner and we watched a movie. What did we watch? Too much weed. Yeah, I'm gonna have to consult Amelia when I get the chance, because there's no way I'm gonna remember it now. Sorry if you already answered this. Yeah. You can go back and look. I talked about the new Hellraiser. Somebody asked. It wasn't Barbarian, no. That one actually just recently got released on, I think it's Hulu or some shit. I saw it. I was flipping through there, and it's still in the theaters where I'm at. So I was like, we watched it on the TV, so I'd have to go to the TV. And I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do it. I'm not interested in doing it. Back on the lettuce, I see. No, not really. I'm just talking about in general, like in my lifetime, too much weed. I really hardly smoke anymore. You still watch TV? Well, I watched it on my TV. It's not like flipping through the channels on TV. It's like I've got the apps on my TV and we go and watch movies on them, you know. Was it a new movie? It was a newer movie. What the fuck did we watch? My mind is just filled with the things that we're like watching now that I'm actually enjoying. Like we started watching Rambo Last Blood the other night. We're finishing up, like we've actually watched the whole Rambo franchise over the last like 3 or 4 months. And we started Rambo Last Blood last night, and I was like, whoa, like I'm actually enjoying this movie. Like what I didn't think I would. I've heard nothing but bad things about this film. I mean, yeah, the original Rambo is, I think, the best of them. It's a way more serious feeling movie. Like, and I think maybe that's why I liked this one, is because like this latest one, or I'm liking this latest one, because it like deals way more with Rambo's human side. Like he's got like horrible PTSD, you know. And that's like implied, I think, throughout the Rambo franchise, but it's really only a big plot point in the first Rambo and this last one. What's the worst Rambo movie? Um, I don't know. I gotta be honest with you, none of them is bad. Like, none of the Rambo movies are bad. So, it'd be hard to. Yeah, I really don't think of any of the Rambo movies as bad. 75-year-old Rambo. I mean, hey, dude, like, I will tell you this. I liked. I'm liking. We didn't finish it yet, but I'm liking this Rambo Last Blood movie way more than I liked like the Rambo reboot. Because I think this is right. There's Rambo First Blood, there's Rambo First Blood Part Two, there's the Rambo reboot, and then there's Rambo Last Blood. I think that's all of them. And I feel like I feel like that's most of them. But yeah, like in this one, like in the Rambo reboot, he looks absurd. Like he looks totally absurd. He is like desperately trying to not look like a 70-year-old dude, which he is, in that movie. He's 70 something years old. And so he's desperately trying not to look as old as he is. He's got these weird, like, plastic surgery face. He's got his hair dyed so that there's no gray in it. You know what I mean? It's just a very strange. He looks puffy and weird. And in Rambo Last Blood, they actually let him look like an old man a little bit. He's got some gray hair. He's got some wrinkles and some. He just looks like worn out. I'm like, yeah, that's what you expect Rambo to look like. Get out of here, flies. Who would you recast as Rambo? Nobody. I really honestly don't think you could do Rambo. Rambo's like Rocky. A lot of people don't give Stallone his due and proper. Stallone's written every Rambo movie, produced every like it's his. Like he wrote it for himself to star in. It's a whole franchise that's dependent on Stallone. There's no way that you can do a Rambo without Stallone. It would be. I'm not saying they won't. No, no, Dwayne Johnson. No, 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 no. I literally cannot stand looking at Dwayne the Rock Johnson anymore in a movie. I can't take it. I can't go see a movie with him in it and take it at all seriously. I just can't. Just cannot take it seriously. He is terrible. He really is terrible. I feel like he was good in one movie. One. And that's The Scorpion King. I feel like and it's not even the greatest movie ever, but it's like a watchable movie. Like you can actually watch The Scorpion King and enjoy it, And I was like, okay, well. But since then, I can't think of a single Rock movie that I would recommend to anybody in any way. The Rock is Batman? No. Please, no. No more Batmans. No more Batmans. I know I'm not going to get what I want, but I would really like them to retire Batman as a franchise, let it limp off into obscurity as a franchise for 20 or 30 years. Because it's starting to get absurd. You've got Robert Pattinson, you've got Ben Affleck. I mean, come on. Can we stop? Like, it's hilarious when a 6'6" jacked bodybuilder like Schwarzenegger or The Rock plays like a regular bumbling dad. For some reason, I think that it works better with Schwarzenegger. Like, Schwarzenegger's like an enigma to me, man, because he's not like he's just so good. He has no right to be anywhere near as good as he is. Like, he's laughable. His accent is crazy bad. You know what I mean? For movies, like, it just sticks out like a sore thumb, but it actually works in pretty much every movie he's been in. Yeah, I mean, he definitely does. He's definitely got like a magnetic personality for sure. Twins. It's the movie with him and Danny DeVito. Yeah. No, no Andy Dick Batman. No Batman. Period. I don't want any more Batman. I don't want any more Jokers. I don't want any more superheroes. I'm done. Like, let it, let it flatline for a few years. You know, at least a few years. Like, give us 5 years where every big release is not a superhero movie. That's what I'm going for. That's what I'm about. What about the children, Paul? Come on, they've never seen Batman. Let them see the good Batman. Let them see the original too. Let them see the Michael Keaton Batmans. Why not? Those are the best, man. Those are still the best. The you know, the original Batman 1 and 2. Come on. No, no latex nipples. What genre would you like to see come up and get big? I'm always rooting for horror movies to break out of their kind of like cult status and become like the main type of movie. There was a brief period of time, well, not brief, I guess pretty much most of the decade of the 80s, horror movies were some of the top blockbuster type movies. I'm always rooting for horror to make a comeback. So it's no longer like, because right now, like, there's some good horror movies being made, but they're considered to be very niche in comparison with like an Avengers movie or a whatever, Black Panther or whatever the fuck. I'm waiting for horror movies to come rampaging back onto the scene. Well, thank you, Tucker. Getting old there, Paul. Man seems to age with passing time. Scientists baffled. Terrifier 2 brought in 44 million at the box office. I mean, 44 million is nice for a horror movie, but it's nowhere near like some of these movies are making like 300 million. You know, like, I'd like to see some horror movies that are like that level. I came out of the womb ancient. Clearly. You reckon there's kind of a Straussian connection between Americans' obsession with superhero movies and TV shows and our country's decline? No. No, because that's always been like that. Like, I don't know. I can't look at it that way. Like, I think that, like, movies, even bad ones, like, movies are like our national product. And I look at them as, apart from any kind of decline. Maybe I'm wrong about that, but I feel defensive when people make that insinuation that, like, oh, you just look at the movies nowadays, you can tell that society has declined. Like, has it? I mean, maybe in some ways, but to tie that directly to movies doesn't feel right. Like, I think movies as an expressive art form, even the bad ones, are something that's worth preserving about our society. 90s was our peak as a society. You might catch me saying some shit like that at some point, but I really don't feel that that's true. The 90s sucked too. They really did. It's hard for me to say that because I came of age in the 90s. I'm a child of the 90s or whatever. But yeah. The internet was pretty neat in the 90s. Yeah. And the internet was pretty cool because it hadn't been completely seized upon by corporate interests yet. Like, corporations were long on the 90s. They were long on the internet in the 90s. They just didn't quite get how big it was going to be. Like, really, a lot of, like, the boomers, like my parents. My dad's probably an exception to this. But he was always a big tech nerd. Like, he was always an early adopter of technology. But most people's parents looked at the internet as like, oh, it's like the library, you know? It's like a thing where you can look up facts. It definitely was that. But the social aspect of the internet is something that most people just didn't even really see happening as it was unfolding. In the 90s, it really started to take shape. Like, the social media landscape of the future was born then on these message boards and then chat apps and stuff like that. And a lot of these corporations just didn't see it happening. And it wasn't like an advertisement hellscape. As a result of that, like, most of these companies were like, I ain't spending no money to put a Pepsi logo on some internet web page. Like, fuck that. And as a result of that, it was pretty good, you know. Hope Twitter falls apart. It won't. I feel like everybody's like freaking out about Twitter because Elon Muskrat has taken it over. It's gonna keep going just fine. I saw this news, like, on my news app on my phone. I saw this story about, like, a bunch of people are leaving Twitter. I was like, oh, really? I clicked on it. And I'm like, look, they're highlighting like the goodbye tweets of some people, and they're all just like non-celebrities, like D-list celebrities I've never heard of. It's like some dude that was on a TV show 20 years ago left. You know, it's like nobody's fleeing. Are you Paul Pelosi? No. They already have AI generated prompt based video, and it's insane how good it is. Leaving Twitter sounds like a bad coming of age movie. It does. Are you having a midlife crisis, Paul? I've been having a midlife crisis for at least 10 years. At least. Yeah, I think my life from here on out is just one long midlife crisis until it transitions to an end of life crisis. I'm trying to find my place in this new world that I barely recognize. Any tips on dealing with a midlife crisis? Just ride the wave, man. Just ride the wave. Your rap persona is a midlife crisis. I mean, yeah, I admitted it. You can't you can't dog me out if I just admit it. If I just straight out admit, like, yes, I'm locked deep into a midlife crisis. I've got all the hallmarks. Well, maybe not all the hallmarks, but I've got a lot of the indicators of a midlife crisis for sure. It gets easier sometimes. Well, maybe you're right, Barbara. Maybe you're right. It just doesn't. I'm 42, and I'm not looking at easier. I'm looking at harder. It feels like it's getting worse and worse. What defines a midlife crisis? It's like this feeling that like you spent your youth pursuing something that you don't want. That's what it is, in my opinion. I'm sure other people would define it differently. But they would be like, my youth is gone, and I spent my youth in pursuit of a life that I really didn't want. Like I worked my ass off, pursuing things that now are meaningless to me. And what does that mean for me? Like, what does that mean now as I go over the hump and I start into the decline of older age? You know what I mean? What does that mean for me as a person? That that I don't, I'm not, that's just what it is. It's just what it is. It's like I'm no longer in the flower of my youth. I'm no longer at that like experimental stage. Like I'm locked into something, and what is it? I don't know. Existence is just a thing to experience. Don't take it too seriously. Just try and enjoy. I'm gonna do my best. What should we tell younger gens in order to prevent a midlife? Nothing. There's nothing you can do. And you can't, like, that's another thing about young people. You can't tell them about it. Like, you can't really explain it to a younger person. It's something that you've got to live through. You've got to experience it. You can't tell a young person that, like, dude, everything you're doing right now is going to be meaningless in 15 years. And you're going to be looking back at your youth that you spent working for, like for me, it was Starbucks. I worked for Starbucks for an absurd amount of time. I worked for a school district being a fucking tech guy for an absurd amount of time. And what do I got to show for it? Nothing really. You've just got to experience it. There's this kind of expectation in youth, I think, that things just build, 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 build. Eventually things go over the hump. And that's when you start thinking, like, whoa, what would you have done differently? I don't know. I think that's part of the midlife crisis. That's why it's a crisis. I feel like if I could look at it and go, like, oh, I should have done X, Y, or Z, then I could, like, pursue those things now and maybe stave off the crisis. But I don't know. It's all a big mystery to me. It's all a great big mystery, isn't it? Are you afraid of getting old? No, not really. I don't like some of the things that come with it, and at my age, I'm starting to feel those things. I'm starting to understand those things. Your body can't really do what it used to do. Your mind maybe doesn't feel quite as sharp as maybe it used to. So there's certainly things about aging that I don't like, but I don't really fear it. It is what it is. I am what I am, and it is what it is. One of the things that I think this is probably like one of the hardest things to explain to people too. So I have horrible, what they call seasonal affective disorder. Like, if you've watched me for any length of time, you know I struggle with mental illness. And, dude, the summer, I just feel like curling up into a fucking ball and disappearing. Dude, it is so bad. So incredibly bad. And this last summer has been like one of the worst that I can remember. It's hard to really qualify that because I can't, a lot of the other summers that I've gone through are so much further back in my past that maybe a lot of the pain of it has been dulled. But man, I just can't. Buying a Powerball ticket. If I win, you're a millionaire, homie. I'll throw the mods a few stacks. All right, old prickle bush. I'll hold you to that. You may find that if you do win, you're a lot more covetous of your cash than you think you're going to be. Like, but yeah, good on you. Yeah, I mean it's actually not as uncommon as you think. Like seasonal affective disorder, a lot of people think, oh, because I think a lot of people think generally that the winter and the autumn or whatever are naturally depressing because of the portent of it. It's like everything's dying. The winter is like when the leaves fall off the trees and the trees are all scraggly and it's cold and it's harsh and a lot of the animals go into hibernation or die off. And but for me it's always been the opposite, and it's actually way more common than you think for people to experience summer seasonal affective disorder. um, a lot of it is tied to like photosensitivity, which once again is weirdly tied to your mental state for a lot of people, me being one of them. um, the way that the sun shines super bright in the summer, it just fucking kills me, dude. I feel awful sitting around in the sunlight. So, once it's finally where I'm at started getting chilly, cold, starting to get some like quote unquote winter weather. And I feel almost immeasurably better. But it's just like, man, how do I get out of that cycle? Like, I think I would honestly be a person that, if I had money, that would like like I'd have like a summer house in Alaska or some shit. Like I honestly think I would be way happier if I just summered somewhere that wasn't like fucking super hot, baking. You know, yeah, maybe even go to the southern hemisphere where it's winter. Let's fly to Australia and winter in Australia or whatever the fuck, you know. You ever experience a large snowfall? Yeah. Tommy from the Bronx. You got a new name, huh? Mean Street MMA. Cool. Where summer is more like a hotter than average spring. I mean, yeah, it's awful, man. It really fucks me up. It puts me in like this like coma like state where I don't want to experience anything. I don't want to talk to anybody. I don't want to do anything. All I want to do is sleep. Like I just want to like curl up in my bed and sleep through the day. Be active only at night. Not deal with anything, not go anywhere. It's bad, man. And this last summer, worst on record for me. I've been altogether out of it. Taking a new direction, Tommy. That's cool. Good for you, buddy. Good for you. Let's hang out. I'll be right back. See it coming. You see, do pass you by. Ugh. Sounds like owls. It's a mourning dove. That owl-like hoot is a mourning dove. Cool. You have a thunderbird in your backyard? Oh. Oh. Say what? We should all do mushrooms. Nah. Dude, I had a mushroom trip that was man, dude. I had a trip that was out of this world. No pun intended, man. Not a traditionally enjoyable trip, let's put it that way. And since then, it was months ago. I think I actually started one of these after I took the shrooms. And after about 15 minutes, I was like, no. And I went to like Tweedledee land for a good 6 hours. Not a good look. I mean, all of them are worthwhile in my opinion. But yeah, no, it was like, how much did you take? I didn't measure it out, but it was a fatty dose. I took a fat dose. I had come into these mushrooms that were like all ground up, like I guess in preparation of being eaten. And I remember I just put like 3 big old spoonfuls of it in a glass and put some water in it and swished it around and just went whoop. It's like I cooked for a while, dude. I cooked for a good long while. Existential crisis mode engaged. Hey, Paul, don't you think someone with your condition would be better off in Washington State weather-wise? Probably, yeah. Yeah, probably. My pocketbook wouldn't be better, though. Did you remove the backlog of streams? Huh? I'm not sure what you're talking about. If you were a Mortal Kombat character, what would be your fatality? I don't know. What do you think? The nukes, yeah. Get naked, grab your opponent, and jump into a volcano. That would be pretty good. Were you not scared of overdosing? No. No. Ever heard of a rainbow gathering? Mm-mm. I have not. I have not. Was up last night and just kind of like looking at surfing on YouTube, I guess, looking at some YouTube stuff, and I got recommended the last onion nuggets that I did with Scotty last week, and I was like, oh yeah, I haven't checked. You know, every once in a blue moon I'll check the comments on something. I definitely don't do it anywhere near like I used to. Like back when I was with Drunken Peasants and stuff, I would check the comments constantly. I don't really do that anymore. But I was like looking at the comments of that, and I was like, holy fuck. I kicked the fucking wasp's nest, didn't I? It is literally just filled with like treatises about how, like, for lack of a better term, retarded I am. Treatises, full-blown treatises, man. Not just like a little blurb, a treatise. Yeah. Like a treatise. We wrote a whole treatise, and then you look and there's like 90 comment replies, and when you click on it to look at the 90 different comment replies, they're all treatises too. It's like, yeah, dude, like a fucking like a what do they call those, the big college dissertations or whatever? Yeah, manifesto. I'm just talking like a treatise is like a like I don't know, like a long form written piece on a subject. Holy fuck. Everything about how much the worm turned on that one. You basically ended Milo's career, but because it was a sleeper bomb, a bunch of people shit on you for the things you said. I mean, yeah, that's. I'm not. I'm just like. Here's the thing. Like, I know for a fact because they write treatises. Nobody is trolling and writes a treatise. These people, like, there are, a good fistful of fucking people that hate my guts, and I understand because one of the things that is typified by the current generation is this idea that you're going to change somebody's position by badgering them on it. Like you're going to take somebody who says something that you think is wrong-headed or unhinged or whatever the fuck, and you're gonna like pile onto them to the point where they go like, all right, all right, all right, I changed my mind, I'm sorry. And they don't know. Like, I'm sorry that those rules don't apply to me. I'm from the before times, where having a strong opinion about something was just expected. So I'm never gonna be that any other type of personality other than one that pisses people off, especially in this current climate. Like this current climate does not like a person that isn't willing to bow to public pressure. And they think that there's like a certain amount of that pressure, hence the treatises, that's going to cause me to go like, oh yeah, maybe I am wrong. Not me. If I come to the like realization that I'm wrong about something, it'll be on my own terms. Like I'm not incapable of admitting I'm wrong. I've done it a bunch of times. I've done it a whole fuck ton of times. But it's almost never been inspired by somebody writing a fucking 90-page essay on what a moron I am. Yeah, there's like this. I feel like there's a disconnect because the term anti-war used to be really clearly defined, and there used to be a strong element of that on the American political left, which I've been a part of my whole adult life. There used to be a very strong contingent. You might be anti-war, and it's not like a defining position, but there's a lot of people that's the number one thing, and I'm that. I have watched with horrible like sadness the meat grinder that is international war my whole life, and it's directly the most destructive thing I think our government does, and I stand against it. So when I say to you, like in my mind, when I say to people I'm anti-war, my position on Ukraine is clear. I think Putin was horribly wrong for starting the war, and I think America is horribly wrong for fanning the flames of it, prolonging it, escalating it by dumping weapons on it. To me, that's implied when I tell you I'm an anti-war leftist. It comes with the territory. But other people don't. They've got this weird position in their head. Well, I'm anti-war, except the ones that are sold to me politically. Except this one, and this one, and this one. No, no, no. Dude, I'm a war. What is it good for? Absolutely nothing, guy. Period. And that ain't gonna change because some dude wrote a fucking 6-page comment. It's just sorry. That position is rooted way deeper than you can reach. To most people, anti-war just means opposed to wars the broader public is opposed to. Yeah, I mean, maybe it never really meant that to me. Like I've told this story before. I was actually part of an anti-war political, I don't know what you would call it, like protest group. And I protested during the Obama administration against Obama from the left because of his ridiculously over-the-top carpet bombing of targets via drones. You know what I mean? It's just like there would have been people back then too. If I was a bigger internet presence back then, there would have been people back then selling me those different. Well, you know, he's doing that because there are people who want to kill us, or he's doing that to free these people. No, 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 no. Or why do you want to criticize Obama so vehemently? You know, there would have been those people. Like, he's better than the alternative. the fucking lesser of two evils crowd would have been raging at me over that. You know, a lot of people don't understand. It was a different climate, but I was treated with the same amount of disdain in my limited online interactions. Like I was a member of a big message board back in the day with a ton of people, just a hugely politically broad message board with a ton of activity and people representative of pretty much every major political polarity in America. And, you know, when I was from the jump against our invasion of Afghanistan and against our invasion of Iraq, people went ape shit. And now that's the commonly held opinion. You know, it just took fucking, 25 years for the opinion that I had from the jump to become acceptable politically. So I'm used to this. I'm used to this shit. You know, and it's hard to explain that to people. Did your internet opinion help change minds? I mean, there was definitely like a really robust political interchange before the internet became YouTube, you know. Does a hypothetical justified war exist for you at all? I'm just curious as to what you would require a war to be in any way justified for you. I hesitate to use this as an example because it gets brought up constantly as a justification for pretty much any conflict. But I would say World War II. You've got a guy that's literally rounding up people by the millions and systematically genociding them. And he's not going to stop. Like, I would think that if you were to ask me, is there a justified war in America's history, World War II would come up, even though I'm incredibly, incredibly critical of America's involvement in that war. A lot of people think that war started, that we were just totally neutral in that war until Japan bombed Pearl Harbor, and that is not the case. We'd done exactly what we're doing in Ukraine already in that war. Arming people, allowing our military to patrol other people's international waters against German warships and shit. Funding it, yes. And so, like, to be honest with you, like, I have wide criticisms of how America went about being involved in that war. And wide criticisms of how Americans conducted themselves in that war. You know, there were tons of American massacres in that war, right? Where German troops were gathered up and systematically shot. And we also used 2 nukes, right? Do you oppose the dropping of nuclear bombs on Japan? Yes. I oppose the use of any kind of nuclear arms for whatever reason. Because for some reason, I realize in a way that young people, by and large, a lot of you seem to not, that nuclear war is like the end of the human species. It's literally like a disaster film waiting to happen. And it's one of the most horrible possible outcomes for the end of the human race. In addition to that, it is something that you should ultimately fear. Crazily possible. And the sad thing about World War II to me is that it is like, okay, so back when I was a leftist standing in opposition to the invasion of Afghanistan and Iraq, one of the arguments that was thrown at me ad nauseum was, "Oh, so you would have been against stopping Hitler? You know, fucking Saddam Hussein tortures and rapes and kills his people, and he genocided the Kurds. I guess you'd be against world." And the answer that I give them honestly is maybe I would have, given like that I actually had the knowledge of America, the totality of America's involvement, or at least something approaching it. Maybe I would have been. I don't know. I wasn't alive then. I'm alive now. So to me, it's an interesting, it's an important historical lesson, but it's not like a template for justifying every goddamn fucking war.
Like World War II is so complex.
Every war is super duper complex, but yes, World War II is not just, Hitler killed Jews, America killed Hitler. That's usually what people. That's about the baseline of knowledge when it comes to World War II in most people's minds. It was insane.
The UK still had a lot of their territories. You know, there were people in like South Africa fighting and stuff because they still had dominion over them and shit.
It was a literal world war.
Yeah.
It was fought in like 3 different theaters.
Yeah.
3 distinct different theaters of war, not just areas, theater, like whole widespread bombing campaigns in 3 huge swaths of the earth.
Mm-hmm.
It was an absolutely insane war, and it's absolutely insane for people to use it constantly as an example when they're feeling like supporting a fucking armed conflict. I don't do it. I don't think it's right for America to participate directly in it. I don't think it's right for America to facilitate one side or the other. And a lot of that is just, that's lived experience. You know, back when I was a really younger kid in the 80s, and it's funny, we talked about Rambo earlier. The Mujahideen in Afghanistan, they were the Ukrainian rebels. They were the freedom-loving people who just wanted to preserve their way of life and were willing to lay down their lives to do it. They were literally the Ukrainian rebels against the same enemy, against the same imperial power, the Russians. And what did America do? It armed that country to the fucking teeth. And what happened? 15 years later, that country was run by warlords because of all the American military training and all of the American military materiel that was dropped in that country. And you're looking at us doing that same thing literally in the middle of Europe, and you think it's a good idea. No. Wrong. Sorry. Like, no. Then it was not Russia, it was the USSR, but you get it's the same enemy. This paradigm exists because a few billionaires stand to profit from it. Yes. That's another thing that makes me an instant opposer of America's involvement in this type of a conflict. Instant. Trace who's benefiting from this? Like, who's monetarily benefiting from this? Raytheon, fucking all these, they're all just military companies who have a vested interest in influencing American policy to make sure that we're constantly at war or funding a war. Sorry. I oppose on that ground alone. I oppose it.
Like how different World War II is. They didn't have this big complex yet. People had to like donate their pots and pans and shit.
People had to go to work for the government. Like it's credited with being one of the things that finally like broke a glass ceiling for women. Because America's women just went to work because all the men in America,
they didn't have all the planes and the bombs and all that yet.
They went to work in the factories and shit.
Yeah.
I mean, it was crazy.
Now we're just sitting on this giant stockpile that we're just doling out as we see fit.
Yep. It's insane to me. The fact that people don't fear the military-industrial complex, but actually cheerlead for it, it fucking like, it's just not in my lexicon as a leftist. We people have forgotten how the USA bred 2 whole generations to be war breed. No child left behind was used to recruit children. What happens to our mothers screaming, our sons will not be warlords? I mean, I'm telling you, dude. I'm part of that, and that doesn't disappear. It would take an insanely good argument to convince me to change my position on this. And I just don't hear it from any of the people that are justifying the war. I get it, dude. Do I feel bad for people in Ukraine who are caught in the middle of this horrible geopolitical bullshit? Yes. Do I think that means that the best thing we can do for those people is dump tons of fucking grenades and landmines and machine guns onto them? No. You know, you're not selling it to me on the basis of that. I'm sorry.
Did you see Lula's statement on it? You know, the new president of Brazil?
Mm-mm.
He's kind of the perspective of like, you know, like Ukraine and NATO and the US like didn't like cause it, but you know, like egged it on with their actions and stuff.
Oh, absolutely. People want to deny that. They want to, like, when it comes to justifying war, people need black and white. They need yes, no, up, down, black, white, and they'll do anything to make it that way. They will not, like, in their minds, there's nothing other than Putin is an imperialist madman who wants to just, you know, and if we don't stop him here in Ukraine, it'll be Italy next. You know, he's going to creep in. He wants to dominate all of Europe. That has to be the only position. There can't be any like America's fucking geopolitical position as the leader of NATO has anything to do with provoking this type of action. I'm not saying it's the only reason that it was done, but to think that like pushing his border with NATO countries back isn't part of Putin's desire for Ukraine is just ridiculous. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous to deny that America doesn't have a role in the turmoil going on and the war going on in Ukraine prior to our arming it. You know? And it's just like you're trying to sell me on this simplistic shit. And that's exactly how the war in Afghanistan was started. People were moved by these glowing portrayals of the Mujahideen. You know, fighting in rags, shooting at Soviet tanks, you know, and nobody would support them. And God, man, how morally can we stand by? You know, those people were brutal to their women, brutal to their children.
And they didn't represent the whole country.
No. And it's just like this idea that, like, I don't know, man. I just don't buy this, like, whitewashing of the situation that happens when it's time to defend a war.
And just the whole fact that diplomacy is a dirty word that fucking AOC
that never works.
Falling over themselves apologizing for even suggesting it.
Yeah. I mean, we've gotten to the point where the idea of diplomacy is almost laughable. Our diplomacy is, we do shotgun diplomacy. It's at the barrel of a gun. That's what it is. That's our type of fucking diplomacy now. And if you even insinuate that there could have been a diplomatic approach that the United States could have taken, maybe in addition to providing, like what do they call it? Like just aid, just
Yeah,
like
just
humanitarian aid. Yeah.
Yeah. Like avenues for evacuation of civilians and
Right.
but no, we're acting like if Ukraine gives up an inch of their territory, that's too much.
Yeah.
When if you look at the history of Europe, borders have been very recently changed.
If you do one of those fast maps, it looks
Yeah.
like a giant amoeba that's constantly being eaten by another giant amoeba. It's just the borders and countries and identities there are all mixed in such a way that nothing is simple.
Yeah. There's no Ukraine that's always existed.
No. A lot of people like to paint Ukraine as if it's something that's existed for 5,000 years or something. It isn't.
I was looking at a map just of Ukraine and it just disappeared for 70 years or something. Just didn't exist for a while.
Yeah, I mean, and people don't want to and what's happening now is a conflict. One of the things that I saw people writing a treatise against me was me claiming it was like a civil war. I think that comparison stands.
It was called that.
This is a post-Soviet state.
As when Crimea was taken by Russia in 2014, they called it a civil war.
Well, there's a reason why I call it the Ukraine.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't realize that. I get corrected on it a lot of times, but I don't think people stop and think why does Paul call it the Ukraine? Because it just used to be a region of the USSR. You know what I mean? In my lifetime. So you're claiming there's this long-standing Ukrainian identity as a sovereign nation and not as a greater part of the Russian Federation or whatever the fuck. You can't sell that to me. I know that's untrue.
Because every civil war is eventually they're divided into two nations. Than what used to be a former nation.
Yes.
The Confederacy, as short-lived as it was its own nation.
Right. It was a civil war. It issued its own currency. It had its own political system and blah, 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 its own military. Yeah. It's a civil war. So, Paul, what would be the limits in terms of latitude to award to Putin after which you would like to see an intervention? I don't know. I'm not gonna claim like a lot of people do on the other side of this argument. They claim that this is it. Ukraine giving 1 inch of territory to Russia, that's the red line in the sand. You're asking me a question I don't know the answer to. Because the things that you're saying that Putin will do have not been done yet. And I don't think that there's a really good argument either that Putin would just invade a NATO country.
I mean, if we had the answers to that, there wouldn't be war. If we could come up with some
I'm
mathematically perfect compromise for everything.
You're asking me to do like a fucking 10-page long algebra calculation in my head. I don't know. I don't know what the answer to that is. But I am willing to take a stand on the fact that the answer is not more continued bloating of the American military-industrial complex. Sorry. I don't think Raytheon should be cashing checks in Ukraine. And I think that America's... the fact that there are people that are selling this war as it's for the freedom of the Ukrainians is laughable to me. This is about securing a geopolitical position against Russia. This is about securing oil and continued business participation in the very rich area of Ukraine, which is a huge agricultural area, a huge mineral area. It's about securing their oil. It's about securing their natural resources. Securing another area of the world for American business to exploit.
I look at the converse, like Israel and Palestine. Israel's been invading Palestine since fucking World War II.
Yep.
And we enable that other side of the conflict.
Yep. It
But
just
Palestine doesn't overall have that much for us. It's just in our best interest that Israel keeps growing.
right, because they're a locked in political ally in an area of the world that doesn't really like the United States a whole lot. Why does that area of the world not like the United States? Because of its imperialist bullshit. So we got to secure a nice, friendly nation in that morass so that we can have somewhere we can park our planes if we need to. I don't support it. I'm sorry. I don't support that. I don't support Ukraine being turned into another fucking American subsidiary corporation. Sorry. I think that if we really cared about the people there, we would open our borders. We would start a program of mass immigration from the Ukraine. Come here. Those of you that don't believe you should be part of Russia, those of you that want to live free, come here to America. We're just making an unlimited route, and don't act like we don't have the room. Have you ever driven a long distance in America? Most of it's empty.
Most of America's growth in recent years has just been immigration. Like, our birth rates don't meet the replacement rate anymore.
Nope. Let them come here. And while you're doing that, provide hospital equipment, provide bandages and analgesics and all the things that you need, food, rations, along with a concerted effort to help evacuate anybody that wants to be evacuated. I think that would be the compassionate thing to do if your primary concern is people in Ukraine being oppressed by an imperialist power. It's one of the things about America that I like. We have a rich tradition of being horrible to our immigrants, but eventually immigrating them into the greater sphere of limited freedom that we provide. America is a country that was literally built by immigrants, founded by immigrants. It's one of the things, overall, I don't necessarily like every implication of it, but it's one of the things I like about America. Absolutely. Take Russian refugees as well. There are people that want it. In my opinion, America should take unlimited amounts of refugees. I would way rather the hundreds and hundreds of billions of dollars that get spent on military bullshit be spent on setting up fucking people here. The proof is in the pudding. Every goddamn immigrant group that has migrated to America looking for freedom and economic opportunity has done nothing but enrich the American tapestry. They brought their ingenuity, they brought their culture here, and it's done nothing but make this place a richer place. Not just money-wise, I'm talking rich in terms of texture and feel, and it's just a beautiful, I know it's a term that people don't like anymore, melting pot of different religions and perspectives and food and culture and ingenuity. So yeah, I think we care about these things that are happening. Let people leave. What are these guys gonna do if they don't have enough people? Like, what are these like imperialist guys gonna do if they don't have enough people to man their fucking warships and fight their wars for them?
Yeah, or if they don't have people to capture to run the machinery that they take.
Yeah. So,
Ukraine becomes a lot less sexy if they have 1 million less people.
People drive the economy.
Yeah.
They're the number one economic resource. You can't have a big giant economic center without hands to build it and staff it. You can't have a military without hands to hold guns and fly the planes. And I don't think Ukrainians want to leave Ukraine, Paul. The ones that don't want to leave don't have to leave. I'm not saying you force them. I'm not saying we go abduct the entire country. I'm saying we throw the door open wide. We make it easy and attractive for them to do it. Those that want to get out of that fucking turmoil and come have a little piece of freedom. Absolutely. I think that would be more protective of the freedom of Ukrainian people than dumping a bunch of guns on them.
And it puts America at a better place in the negotiating table with Russia. because
Right.
there's not a direct aggression.
Right. That's where I stand. And like I said, this is a position, like, if there's an argument that could get me to fucking reverse it, I ain't heard it yet. There's certainly no amount of, like, social media badgering that can be done to get me to fucking reverse my position on this. This is a position that's not based on whimsy. It's not based on, just a 50-50 fucking coin flip that I made in my head. This is a position that is based in part on a life lived in the United States and being politically aware of the interventions that the United States has conducted, being against those. What movie did we watch on Halloween?
We watched.
Can you remember what it was about? I'm flipping out because somebody asked me, like, "Did you watch any spooky movies on Halloween?" And I was like, "Yeah."
Fright Night remake.
The Fright Night remake. That is true. That is what it was. That's what we watched. Which, I don't know, it's pretty decent. Not super memorable, though, but pretty decent. It was okay. Would you support an anti-fascist uprising in a country like Russia or North Korea if it had a violent element? Support it in terms of just like my political support? Probably, yeah. To me, there's a difference between the militaries of two countries fighting and rebels fighting against their own exploitative government. Would I support America arming said rebels? Probably not.
Well, like you see what happened in Iran.
Or like South America or Cuba or any of the other places that America has intervened and dropped its weapons.
Yeah.
How are those places doing? Bad.
Yeah, and like even when we didn't like intervene as much in like the Iranian Revolution that rose up the Ayatollah, like the whole revolution was not necessarily all together on raising the Ayatollah.
Yeah, no.
It just kind of got consumed by that.
Yep. And that's just the way it happens.
Revolutions are messy and rebels are they're not easily definable.
Right. They don't often all share a uniform vision. Like the Afghan commandos who work for Russia now, right? Well, they're some of the most well-trained people militarily in the world. And maybe not like now, maybe this generation, but like we're talking like the generation of the Mujahideen or whatever. There's a lot of men that know how to fucking fight. And so they become useful as mercenary soldiers, which is a whole nother outcropping of war that's just horrible. So there's no amount of sophistry that's going to get me to change my position on this. Because it's, like I said, it's not based on a whim. It's not based on some unrealistic expectation. It's based on a life lived. You're not going to just have to convince me that I'm wrong about Ukraine. You're going to have to convince me that I'm just wrong. Just wrong. I've been wrong my whole life.
And just the moral inconsistency of Ukraine, where it's like this invasion matters, but not invasion X, Y, and Z.
Yeah. It's because and it's because it was sold to us that way. And a lot of leftists, I don't think they see that. The media is unanimously in on this. We got Nancy Pelosi, Slava Ukrainian. We got Joe Biden giving, big floral speeches about the rebels in Ukraine and blah, 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 or the, freedom fighters in Ukraine. And it's like, why would you trust these people with a buffalo nickel, let alone selling you on a fucking war?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was really funny when Lula won, because like the left was really like going behind Lula to get rid of Bolsonaro, but then it came out like what his Ukraine comments were, and people were like, short circuit.
How do we support? A leftist that doesn't believe that we should be flooding Ukraine with weapons. Would it be in the interest of the geopolitical climate of Europe to have a regime that goes and invades on a whim? Is that a viable case for supporting Ukraine? Genuine question. I'm not even sure I understand the question.
Saying that Russia invaded on a whim is
Yeah, Russia did not
ridiculous.
invade on a whim. See this, like people. There are people that's a part of selling this. Putin's just a madman, power hungry madman. He just like got a big map of the general Eastern Europe and Russian area and went, eeny, meeny, miny, mo, Ukraine, invade it. No.
It's been decades in the making.
Yep.
You're acting like Putin was just like, you know what I want next? Texas.
Yeah.
Or Alaska. We're going to take Alaska
Yeah.
back.
It's just, there's a level of absurdity to it. And once again, as I find myself now on the other side of the opinion, it would be completely uncontroversial for me to go, America should not have invaded Afghanistan. We left a stain, a horrible stain of we shouldn't have armed Afghanistan. There's a lot of like people that support this Ukraine thing would also go like, oh yeah, no, it was a bad thing for us to dump a bunch of guns in Afghanistan because look at how it turned out. Uncontroversial opinion. I was called a Russian operative. I was called with the Iraq War. I was called a Saddam Hussein lover. With the Afghanistan War, it was you're an Osama bin Laden supporter. Oh, you think we should just let him sit over there and keep attacking the United States? And now those very self-same people quietly over the course of 2 decades have come to the position that I was already at.
I mean, your position on Ukraine is already growing in popularity.
Yeah.
Like, they polled, like, before they released that letter that they immediately retracted, that, like, 60% of Americans are open to negotiation that might include Ukraine giving up some of their land.
So it's already become, it's routine at this point.
Yeah. They might not all be on Twitter, but...
And you'll see it happen. You'll see all the voices. They'll either just disappear. A lot of them will just disappear. Like a lot of the people writing these fucking like college level treatises about what a retard I am on this will just, they'll just fade away into the general consensus that it was a bad idea to dump a bunch of fucking weapons in the middle of Europe. They'll just fade away or slowly but surely figure out how they were right all along, but kind of wrong. I mean, that's already happened. The whole Ukraine flag and the fucking shit that you don't even see it anymore. All the Slava Ukraini shit has gone away. It's just like Americans really don't, like, they think they do. They're easily convinced en masse that we need to go to war, but they don't have the stomach for it anymore. Too many.
I don't have the patience for
Nope.
it anymore. They're like, what? It's not over in 2 months?
Because that's what we were told.
Yeah.
We were told that we just arm them.
Yeah.
It'll push Russia's, like, military's on the verge of collapse. Now here it is. 8 months later, and it's just grinding. It's getting worse. Like, people in Kiev are without power, without water, because Russia is doing what is done in war. They're striking at infrastructure and shit. People are still suffering, still getting blown up in their apartments and shit. And, people just don't have the stomach for that protracted shit. They're sold on this idea, and it's always sold this way, by the way. It's going to be quick and decisive.
All they need is this,
Yep.
and then it's in the bag.
Quick and decisive. America's invasion of Afghanistan was sold on a number of ways, but that was one of them. Look, this is a militarily underdeveloped country. We're the biggest military power the world has ever known. We're going to go in there with all guns blazing, and they're going to give up. The fucking Taliban is going to go like, oh, fucking wave and you know what happened? Horrible grinding, limb exploding, brain blowing out, civil fucking unrest and war for
Yeah,
a
those
fucking generation.
Mujahideen that we saw as so brave were still
They were still
just as
brave,
determined.
still just as good at blowing up tanks. It turns out,
Yeah.
as they were when they were fighting, when we were arming them against Russia. Still as good as shooting down fucking helicopters. It was horrible, horrible, grinding death. Sorry, don't support it. I'm against it.
I want some coffee.
Yes, please. How long will this last? I mean, who knows? I could see this going, like, I could see this being a protracted thing that ebbs and flows for a fucking decade. You never know. It's already gone too long, in my opinion. As long as it's profitable, it'll go. That is part of the problem, yes. This America can solve the world's problems idea that is just like all you got to do is be a fucking minor student of history to know that that ain't true. Pretty much everywhere America sets its greasy fucking foot turns into a hellhole, a capitalist exploited hellhole. So yeah, this idea that America's got the solutions to the world's problems. We ain't even got the solutions to our problems. We got homeless people just filling the streets of our major cities. We've got mass mental illness that goes untreated. We've got a drug crisis that's burning out of control. In addition to a million other things. Can't solve that shit, so why are we the great solver of Ukraine's problems in people's minds? How's our track record on that, you know? Not very good. Not too fucking good. Oh, fuck. I live in Rustwater town in Michigan, so I know what being poor in America is like. Yeah, I mean, come on. You can't tell me you wouldn't rather those billions of dollars that have been dumped on Ukraine to have been dumped on the American people. But we dumped them on the American people, and once again, dumped them on throwing our doors open wide and saying, hey, if you live under a despot, come here. We'll accept you. By any means necessary, you come here. We got a place for you here. Come and strengthen our fucking country with your resolve. That to me would be something like the right way to look at this conflict. Not escalation, not more machine guns, not more fucking landmines, not more fucking... The idea that people right now are acting like they're ignorant that those very weapons that we're supplying will be turned on the Ukrainian people, the people that they consider the Ukrainian people. It will not be long after this conflict is over that those weapons are turned on the very people that you think you're protecting by supplying them. All it takes is just a little bit of knowledge of military history and a little bit of foresight. And that's too much to ask from a lot of fucking people. One of the things that I've seen covered so fucking sporadically is a thing that I've seen covered so sporadically in the news, but you can find these news stories that crop up because it's just not part of the narrative. How many of the American weapons that we're sending to fight Russians have been seized by Russians and used against Ukrainians? The number's staggering, I can guarantee you. They act like these guns have some kind of biometric ID that can read whether you're a Ukrainian or a Russian, you know? Like, no, that happens all the time in the war. There's a battle somewhere, one side loses, usually when they retreat, they can't take everything, and the other side consumes the shit that they fucking left. The other side grabs the tanks and the vehicles and the grenades and the machine guns and the weapons caches, and they use them against those people. Tell me that's not happening right now? Wouldn't it be better off if those weapons weren't there? Those super advanced, super fucking huge amounts of weapons weren't there? Wouldn't Russia, wouldn't they have less? It's like nobody wants to talk about these things. Sorry, I missed a super chat there. I'm trying to find it. There it is. So tired of hearing how every single conflict is World War II and every geopolitical opponent is Hitler. I'm floored by how many people it's smart to use the Holocaust to justify arming Nazis. Dude, that's what we've been sitting here talking about tonight. And I mean, I guess you could take solace in the fact that in an indeterminate amount of time, all of those people will be on the other side of the argument. Because they always are. Where are the pro-Iraqi invasion people? They don't exist. You just don't hear it. There might be a few fucking rich conservatives or whatever that would go like, oh yes, I still support that. Dude, the general consensus in the media, the general consensus on social media is that was all wrong. Like that was just completely and utterly a disastrous thing for America to have participated in. Oops. Whoopsie daisy. There's another argument that I thought of when I was in there filling up my water that I just like roll my eyes at when I hear it made, and it's made all over the place. If somebody's against America arming Ukraine, the Ukrainian military, basically subsidizing the Ukrainian military, if you're against it, it's going to be 15, 20 seconds at max before somebody goes. They try and get you in this yes-no trap. Because everything is black and white. It has to be for them to support this. They try and get you in this yes-no trap where it's like, do you think that Ukrainians have the right to defend themselves? Yes. Oh, so then you support this. So why are you standing in opposition? As if the right to defend yourself comes with the right to a machine gun from another country. When does that ever? How does that make sense in any fucking way? And that you'll see it all over the goddamn place, dude. I'm telling you, if you just listen to talking heads when it comes to this conflict and shit, you will hear them trying to, anybody they bring in that opposes this, they try and get you locked into this yes-no trap. Where yes, in their mind, for whatever reason, means you agree with me. Then you by necessity have to agree with me. When it never means that. Thank you, baby doll. Whose super chat did I ignore? Somebody find it for me and repost it. I try and catch them all, but I don't. You want to know the other thing, too? And this is like, it's okay to me that people that don't agree with me exist. Isn't that crazy? I may think they're wrong as fuck, but it's okay. I've been wrong about shit, too. You know, I really don't have the disdain for them that they have for me. Like, personally. I think that's a generational thing too. There used to be a difference between your opinion and your person. Mm-hmm. Like you didn't. And now there were some opinions that people had that would probably be off-putting. Like if they're a Nazi, you know, you're not gonna make friends with an actual fucking neo-Nazi or some shit. But when it comes to like political things, geopolitics, domestic politics, and shit, I was raised in a time where like that shit only meant something when you were talking politics.
Yeah. Like if you were having beers or whatever and it came up, you might have an argument about it, but you weren't like, I'm never coming to your house again.
Yeah, it's just not gonna happen. Yeah. Like I've told this story before, but I think it's pertinent. I was it was a long time ago. I just started dating my ex-wife, and my mom invited us to a lunch, and it was gonna be me, my ex, my then girlfriend, my sister, and her then fiance, and we were all going to get together. Now, you know, I've talked about this before. That sister of mine and her fiance, super evangelical Christians, right? And I'm an atheist, and so we don't see eye to eye already. But I had no hesitation in going over there, and politics came up. And interestingly enough, to show you how long ago this was, the Iraqi invasion was still happening. It wasn't like just brand new, but it was, you know, that went on for like 10 fucking years. Yeah. And it was still a political hot button issue. And I was taking this very same position, this exact fucking position. I was going, I don't think it's a good idea for America to involve itself militarily. I don't think that some of these people are better blown up than they are under a despot. I just don't think that way. And that political conversation, I was on that side, me and my ex, we politically aligned in that way. And then my sister and her fiance were on the other end of that. And it just escalated and escalated. And it got to the point where I remember one of the things my sister was like, you know that Saddam Hussein has rape rooms, PJ. Rape rooms. I was like, that's horrible. Yeah, so like, why wouldn't we, you know, those people need to be liberated from that. And I'm just like, why is it us? Why is it our job to liberate every bad? There are rape rooms here in America. People are being sex trafficked. Oh my God. It just escalated, and we got to a point, and I'll never forget this. My stepdad, who's like a pretty even-keeled person, especially when it comes to politics and shit, just pushed his chair back and got up and just left the room. You know, left his plate and everything, which is something he never does. And at that point, I was just like, all right, we're going to leave, because this is not the way it should be. Now, I feel like in a lot of ways, that incident would have been the precipitation of like, I never go and see my sister. We just don't even, but no. You know what happened? I went home, I cooled off, I called my sister on the phone. You know, I told her that, like, look, I'm sorry if I was offensive or whatever. It's just my position. I understand you got yours and I got mine. And that's okay. And I think we really ought to apologize to Mom, because I think she just wanted to have a nice little dinner with the kids. And, you know, we fucking kind of ruined it. And she was like, yeah, you're right. And we did. We apologized to our mom, and we basically made an agreement. Like, we just don't talk politics in family situations. Like, if we're going to do it, we'll do it on our own time. If I feel the desire to argue with my sister, I'll call her on her phone, and we'll do it alone. We'll do it on our own. You know, we just don't do politics at family functions. You know, and I feel like that is just impossible nowadays in a lot of ways. Super chat was reposted. God damn it.
YouTube should have a
Okay,
list that you can refer
got it.
to.
Ingar Husky. I know, like YouTube, especially on the mobile app, makes it so hard. About to go to work, but I got a notification after all this time. But I'll be lurking. What was Lula's comments? Probably based and correct comments. You read the thing. I haven't read the.
Yeah, overall it was, like, um, that Zelensky and NATO and the U.S. had a hand in escalating the
Right.
situation.
So basically, her position is that this hugely complicated geopolitical event was not precipitated by just the madness of one despot. That it has a history, and part of that history is America and NATO's involvement. How controversial!
I mean, you can look up just Lula Ukraine and you'll find his
Yeah.
thing. Yeah.
So yeah, there you go.
And there's another little bit of American interventionism. He got arrested originally because of a U.S. operation in Brazil.
Why is there a U.S. operation in Brazil?
It was like this investigation into corruption, but they were it was, corrupt and, like, sided towards the U.S.
Of course. Some of my friends are conservative, and we just avoid talking about politics and religion. Yeah. I mean, I don't have any problems with that with any of my family members who, have different opinions from me. I've never had a real problem with that. I can get pretty heated in a political discussion, but it's also easy for me to see the humanity behind the opinion. And I think that, like, in a lot of ways, to bring it full circle, that kind of, like, application of broad social pressure. There's a lot of people that think, like, this is how you change your mind, and it is really. How many people, like, come out, say something, and then bow to the pressure of a social media backlash or whatever? When it happens, people tend to fucking flip the script. I'm not built that way. Like, I don't have this opinion because I feel like it's a popular one. And I don't really care that there are people that have oppositional opinions. I think that they have every right to.
And honestly, like, direct arguments, not the best way to change opinions, because then people get more, like, entrenched in their position as they build defenses for it.
Yeah, I mean, the trick to changing a mind is to make that mind believe that it changed itself. And that's a way more subtle thing than, just writing a fucking dissertation that you have to click on see more to see it on YouTube in a comment. You're dealing with some bullshit.
Yeah.
And then there are people that don't want to spend the time to write that, but they'll drive by and and put a like on it. And they expect that a person like me will see that.
Like, oh my God, 20 whole people.
Yeah. See a like, see 40 likes on a post that is calling me politically retarded, and that I'm just gonna go like, oh, okay, I changed my mind. You out debated me, bro. Like that, it just ain't the way it works, man. I'm sorry, I'm not, like I said, I'm not built that way. I'm not from that era. I don't care about getting ratioed. Yeah. Like, there's very few things in my life I care less about.
Like, honestly, like, the biggest example I've seen of that is, like, the whole J.K. Rowling scandal. Like, she started out with a pretty innocuous comment that a lot of people interpreted as transphobic, and then she just kind of doubled down, tripled down, quadrupled down.
Oh yeah, I mean,
because, like, fucking Twitter people getting mad at her is nothing compared to her little empire that she's sitting on.
Sure. I mean, yeah, she's definitely got the money she's got fuck you money,
yeah.
So she can, yeah. But yeah, I mean, I do think that that's true. I do think that the constant badgering, like, has the opposite effect that you want it to. Like, the whole idea to me, maybe I'm just wrong about these people's, like, intentions, but the whole idea to me of sitting down and writing a fucking 8-paragraph comment on a YouTube video about somebody's political opinion is that you hope that person comes along, reads your argument, and goes like, huh, okay. But, like, when you badger the person, a lot of people double down. Like, it will cause people to go, fuck this guy.
And then the bigger the backlash is, the more nasty it is, and some people are just throwing shit at the wall.
Oh, yeah.
And then you see all the shit throwers, and you're like, well, this position must be stupid, because look at how many shit throwers are in there.
It's just like, man, that's social media in a nutshell. And I just don't, like, I don't have that. I'll have that drive in me.
It was funny when I started reading the Harry Potter books again. I came across someone's like, "You're not an ally if you read J.K. Rowling."
It's like, huh? Like, what? I can't even imagine caring about what books somebody's reading. I guess if somebody was just like constantly reading and rereading and talking about Mein Kampf, it might be. But like once again, Hitler is singular in history. You know what I mean? Like, I can't think.
Well, it's like, what authors do you like investigate their politics and shit? Like, do you really sit there and like, I'm gonna wiki every author before I read their book?
I mean, like if their politics are just like woven all throughout their fucking writing, it might be off-putting to me.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like it's not. It's I don't look into it when I read a book. Like it's not the first thing I think. It's like, what's this guy's politics? I don't care. It just doesn't hold that level of importance in my life.
I'm only going to read books of people I agree with.
Yeah. I remember the Michael Jackson thing being like a big controversial thing because there was just a huge subset of the country that thought like, I know for an absolute uncontrovertible fact that he was a child molester, and I can't even listen to his music anymore. And I was just like, I can. Dude, fucking Human Nature is still a banger. You know, I'll still rock out to Thriller. You know, I got no problem with it.
I mean, artists are, I think, by definition, a little weird.
I mean, yeah, that usually goes hand in hand.
Like, if you expect a completely level-headed, sane artist, you're...
And it's just like he was never convicted of doing anything. There was never a fucking trial. There was civil trials and shit where he was sued, and those had various different outcomes. But there was never proof that any of this was, and you have to admit there's a whole fucking huge motive on the other side for people to like claim that he did this. He was one of the wealthiest celebrities that ever lived. And, you know, if you could get him fucking sued civilly and shit, there are people that got millions of dollars out of it. If you're telling me that's not a motivating factor to try and smear somebody's name, now I'm not saying that I know for a fact he didn't do anything. I don't. But I also
he also didn't write songs about it.
Yeah, no. He didn't write songs about child molesting, you know. I don't conflate the two. It's just like, man, I can't even think about like what my musical taste would be if one of the prerequisites to enjoying music was this person is not a scumbag. You know, that would erase like at least half of the music that I enjoy, you know? So I don't know. No thanks. I'd rather just separate art from artist and appreciate what I could appreciate about Michael Jackson.
And then all the people disagreeing with you about Ukraine, it's like they can do that too. It's not like you talk about it 24/7, 365.
No, I bring it up every fucking once in a blue moon on a fucking ideology like today, or on a fucking grease trap or whatever. You know, it'll come up. But yeah, I'm not like Mr. Ukraine. You know, I'm not a guy that's like known for his Ukraine opposition or whatever the fuck. I just talk about it, you know. I have an opinion about it. And to me, that's okay, you know what I mean? On the opposing side of it, it's okay that people don't agree with me. It's okay that people are, in my opinion, you know, subject to the siren song of mass corporate media and shit and get sold on this shit. I understand. You know, and it's okay. You're still a valid human being, you know, if you don't agree with me. opinions are like assholes, everybody's got one, was a product of my generation, that little saying.
Yeah.
You know, there you go. I don't necessarily want to see everybody's asshole, and I don't necessarily want to hear everybody's opinion, but it's not something that is factored into whether or not I enjoy company. Okay, maybe I do kind of want to see everybody's asshole.
Just once.
Just once. I just want to peek at it. Did you dress up for Halloween, Paul? No, because I'm not 12. No, I'm kidding. I don't really care. If people like dressing up for Halloween, go do it. But I just...
We're curmudgeons.
Yeah. Halloween is a holiday that I like internally celebrating by thinking about spooky things, maybe watching a spooker movie or something. Mm-hmm. But the whole, like, ritual of trick-or-treating is just not... It's not... it has no appeal to me anymore. Like, number one, I can't do it anymore, so why would I fucking care? And number two...
Kids don't even really come around anymore.
There's way less trick-or-treating, and I can see why, because kids, like, they're not as excited about it, because it's just like a night supervised by your parents.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, wow, whoopee! You know, styrofoam, what would you say? Styrofoam peanut? Oh, okay. I don't know why your name just, like, fucking... It's like styrofoam. I worked and deep cleaned my car on Halloween. This is adulthood. Yep. Yeah, I mean, when Halloween was a night away from your parents, it was lit. It was great. Happy Halloween. Yeah, fuck yeah. But now that it's just like a whole parent-teacher conference or whatever, everybody's running around with flashlights, and you got your dad fucking telling dad jokes the whole time. Like, I'll just stay home.
And the stupid candy investigators.
Oh, yeah. Oh, my God. I can't even imagine that shit. Hold on. Before you start eating your candy, let me go through it. Make sure there's no hypodermic needles.
Yeah, it would just, like, never happened. I think every time it's happened, it's been, like, a family member of the kid.
Yep. Targeting
that kid.
Dude, I remember these shenanigans used to go down. I remember a Halloween night, I was probably 8. Mm-hmm. And me and my best friend, we went trick-or-treating, and I lived in a rural neighborhood, mm-hmm. but there were a bunch of kids, and there was a lot of trick-or-treaters, you know, and my parents, basically, we had a rule. A few blocks away was a highway, mm-hmm. and we were not allowed to go near or cross that highway. But this whole neighborhood, they would just basically give us a pillow mm-hmm. sack, mm-hmm. pillowcase, dress us up, you know, let us dress up in our little costumes and cut us loose for a few hours. Mm-hmm. And I remember one year we went out and we got bag snatched. There was a, you know, older kid in the neighborhood. We all knew who he was, but he was wearing a mask, so we couldn't prove it. Mm-hmm. But he came and he snatched our bag. Snatched our candy. And so the next year, I remember we had a whole fucking plan. We were like, that ain't happening again. And my best friend John had like a little, it was like the 80s equivalent of an airsoft pistol. Mm-hmm. It was like a pellet gun. Mm-hmm. But it looked like a big chrome handgun. You could cock it. You know what I mean? He stuffed that in his fucking pillow bag. And sure enough, dude, we were walking around. That fucking kid started coming. Hey, you got some candy for me? And I remember John fucking reached in that fucking thing. He reached in his fucking sack of candy and pulled that back. He was like, get back. You ain't taking our candy. The kid was like, whoa, ran away. Shenanigans, bro. Shenanigans. That would never happen in the corporate mom and dad chauffeured fucking event that trick-or-treating is now, you know? It's also a good example of, like, kids solving a problem without parents intervening, yeah. You know? Like, this idea that any parent, like, anything requires a parent. You know? Like, kids can solve their own shit, and it's okay to let them. Yeah, he pulled the blicky, for sure, dude. Stuck it right in his face. And, I mean, look, dude, it was a pellet gun. At worst, it would have left a little welt on his cheek or some shit, but he didn't know that shit. Like I said, that gun looked real. But I feel like I just naturally aged out of dressing up and trick or treating and all that shit. I feel like that was just a natural thing that happened to me at one point. It's like, I don't want to do this anymore. Anyway, my battery's gonna die, so I'm gonna go ahead and end this. Thanks for chilling. And if you're a patron, I'll see you in a couple hours. Got a patrons only onion nuggets. And TJ and I are gonna be sifting through the news of the week. So yeah, become a patron. See you next time.